It's up. Can you find it? Pardon? It didn't show you as. Oh, there you are.
There's no video.
Pardon me?
I have the audio, but I don't see video. Yeah, it says recording. You don't want to record it. That's weird.
People have been.
Just wanted you guys to wrap up your conversation, so. All right, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us again today. Typical Zoom reminders, you're going to be muted. Please either send a chat. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible,
with
with
liberty.
liberty and
Justice for all.
All right, all of you should have received, I forgot my copy, but you should have gotten your I Dare You bingo reminder. Bingo chart last week after the meeting, so try to make sure you fill that out over the next quarter. So across, down, or diagonal will work, and turn those into Scott. So the first thing we're going to do today is Scott's going to set us up on some breakout rooms for about 5 minutes, and hopefully you can discuss what's happened for the past week in your life. And we've had some pretty warm, sunny days. Hopefully you're getting out and enjoying the outside and while you're doing your social distancing. And I know that Joanne Shorston is working on some bringing back the 8 at 8 and encouraging some folks to get together and have some chances to socialize over the coming months at each other's homes in the backyard, so we can have some mini Rotary meetings is kind of the goal. So you should be hearing more information about that as we move forward. Scott, we ready for the breakouts? While we're waiting on Scott's District Governor Steve, we will be getting you scheduled in late August, early September. So we'll be following up shortly to make that happen. Scott, we having challenges?
No, everyone's going to a room.
Sorry, that's us. Okay.
Should I turn it back on?
So Chip, we're in a room here together with our speaker, and it looks like a couple some Rotarians and everybody else. Oh, there he goes. Chip's gone. Scott's still here. Director, how are you today?
Hello, thank you. Good.
You're one of your predecessors who your building is named after was a family friend and was at my wedding about 30 years ago.
Is that right? Chuck Shipley?
Mhm.
Great. Yeah, great person. I knew Chuck well. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great guy. The only reason I was talking about him recently is because my oldest son just got engaged, and so they're in the whole who came to the wedding, who do you invite, the whole 9 yards, and so we were talking about, well, who was at your wedding, and we started having those conversations. I think Chuck was actually on my first date.
You're for some reason breaking up on me.
Okay, I've been doing that lately.
Everybody had a nice conversation with their fellow Rotarians and guests. I'm going to turn it over now to Mike Rankin to introduce our speaker this week.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. And it is indeed a pleasure introduce, I should say, Ohio Department of Public Safety Director Tom Stickrath. Tom and I are approximately the same age. We both finished law school in the late 70s. Lost you, Mike.
Lost you, Mike.
Hello.
Unmute, Mike.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, I was, for some reason, the audio has been a little bit fuzzy coming into me. So can you hear me okay?
We can, Tom. Thank you.
All right, good. I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint, if that's okay. We'll share that with you, and I'll start my presentation. And certainly good to be with you. I think I spoke with Rotary some years ago in person, but it's good to be back with you. And I'm going to talk today what I call the changing landscape of criminal justice. And I'm doing this through a lens of the places really where I've worked through my career. And I've had a fairly unique opportunity in my career. Those are the agencies where I've held leadership positions. But I've had the opportunity to serve at the pleasure of 6 governors, and probably one of the few people in Ohio history that's had the opportunity to serve on 3 cabinets for 2 different governors of 3 different governors of 2 different parties and 2 different agencies. But I've worked at the prison system, juvenile justice, and then 8 years with Mike DeWine at BCI, and now at public safety. I'm just going to kind of walk you through some of those assignments and some of the challenges and some of the changing landscape over the years. Department of Corrections is such a challenging organization. In fact, when Mike DeWine became governor and we began talking about where I could best serve him, he said, you want to go back to corrections? And I said, I'll go anywhere but corrections. 25 years there was enough. That's why my hair is so white. And I asked to head to public safety and was pleased with this appointment. But the Department of Corrections is such a challenging organization. And my hat's off to Director Annette Chambers-Smith and her team there, particularly managing through the pandemic now. The biggest challenges I had there managing as assistant director for 14 years was just the sheer growth of the prison population. We went from about 8,000 inmates when I started right out of law school to almost 50,000 inmates by the time I left, and from 8 prisons to 34 prisons across Ohio. Just incredible growth, all the promotions and hiring and just the change and opening new prisons and building. And you can see from this timeline, I'll just quickly go through the decades, but you can see kind of how we grew with the various model penal code, sweeping mandatory sentences, the crack era of misdemeanors becoming felonies, truth in sentencing, until we hit into the 2010s and we really started, I think, taking a fresh look at our population, saying it's really kind of growing out of control. What can we do to really have a more effective management of our prison system? And so actually the population, as of the pandemic, is now closer to 45,000. It's probably the lowest it's been in 15 or 20 years. The other big challenge I had in corrections was managing the Lucasville prison riot and its aftermath. The tragic death of correction officer Robert Vallantingham and 10 inmates. And Director Reggie Wilkinson and I came out of that crisis with really 2 overarching goals. First and foremost, just really holding our system together. I had seen New York after Attica and how dysfunctional their system was. I saw New Mexico after the Santa Fe riots in the 80s. And so really our overarching goal was, let's keep our system moving forward. Let's keep doing the good things that we're doing and hold our wardens together, hold our system together. The other thing we wanted to do was identify and act on lessons learned from the riot and use the terrible tragedy of Lucasville to improve our system. So enhanced staffing, we were able to fund our Supermax prison in Youngstown, beef up our staff training, and really enhance our critical incident management system. The other thing that we dealt with was the implementation of capital punishment. We went from a death penalty that was then unconstitutional, then a new death penalty with electrocution or lethal injection. Something Reggie and I advocated for with several governors was doing away with Old Sparky, the electric chair. And fortunately, we passed that legislation in the 2000s, and we never had to execute anybody through the electric chair. It's certainly not something that I miss, certainly not a pleasant part of the job, and not something I wish on my colleagues at DRC. 2004, late 2004, Governor Taft asked me to take over the Department of Youth Services, which was in crisis at the time, and very intense public criticism. I think 10% of my employees at one institution were under indictment, and the governor had just fired a friend of mine that was a director there for 17 years. And it's such a challenging organization. This was perhaps my most challenging assignment that I've had, basically because of the challenging population. You can see in this chart the kids that come into our juvenile justice system, the mental health caseloads, self-injury, drug problems, family members incarcerated. I used to look at some of my kids' files when they were getting ready to be paroled. And I think that when I'd look at mom just got out of prison, dad's a drug dealer, I would think, my gosh, the young person I'm releasing on parole is going to be the most stable family member of the group. It's just a really tough population of young people. Both Governor Taft and Governor Strickland gave me what I call a clean palette to really revamp the system. And so we set about doing that starting in early 2005. First was just stopping the abuse. I was really quite stunned coming from the adult prison system to see the way the youth were treated, both verbally and physically. And so my first goal was to clean up the institutions and hopefully allow the youth and the staff to feel safe. And so we tried to implement we were very good at implementing the stick part when I came in. I tried to add the carrot to that and really go to a carrot and stick approach with our young people. Again, with our primary goals being safer facilities with good programming and better placement of youth, more effective placement of our youth, because not all these kids needed to really come to our state, our very kind of penal state system. And so I did a lot of work with Dr. Ed Latessa at the University of Cincinnati, developing risk assessment instruments and adding behavioral programs in our communities. And so we were able to take the population down from about 1,900 to now well under 400, consistent, in my opinion, with good public safety. So closed a number of facilities along the way. When Mike DeWine became Attorney General, we met actually at an OSU tailgate party right after his election. Alcohol was not involved, but Mike asked me if I'd be interested in BCI, superintendent at BCI. And BCI was a central part of his campaign for Attorney General. The office had been impacted by a lot of turnover, a lot of transitions. In fact, the Attorney General's office, I think, had maybe 5 attorneys general in 5 years, something like that. We wanted to bring some stability to certainly the Office of Attorney General, but also to BCI. And so Mike asked me to lead his charge, really in large part of addressing the timely processing of evidence in our crime lab. And AG DeWine and I shared really a fairly straightforward mission. Let's make BCI the best crime lab and best investigative agency in the country. And we had a lot of highlights over the course of our 8 years there. But what I consider some of the highlights are testing the old rape kits. You've obviously all read about that, the 14,000 old rape kits. But we did that at the same time. We were able to decrease our DNA turnaround time for our prosecutors and law enforcement from 125 days to 22 days. And we're very proud of that. And then toward the end of our time there, of course, the Pike County murders, the biggest crime case in the history of Ohio. And I think when that case the dust settles and hopefully successful prosecutions in that case, I think what we'll see as much as anything is the important role of our intelligence analysts in solving very complex criminal cases. The work that our intelligence analysts did at BCI was nothing short of phenomenal. And I think someday that entire story will hopefully be told. So now, as I said, after Mike DeWine was elected governor, he appointed me director of public safety. And so you see on the screen our divisions here at public safety, motor BMV, everybody's favorite place, EMA, emergency management, emergency medical services, which is our paramedics across the state, Homeland Security, criminal justice services, and of course the State Highway Patrol. We're a big organization in state government. I think we're probably the 3rd largest agency employee-wise, but we're also thinking big, and the governor has really challenged us and challenged me to think big. One of the first things I focused on was the Highway Patrol and just looking at beefing up our training, our education requirements within the patrol, as well as our diversity and inclusion within the patrol. I was very proud a little over a year ago to stand with Governor DeWine when we appointed the first ever African-American colonel of the Highway Patrol, Colonel Fambro. and Lieutenant Colonel Marla Gaskell, the first ever female lieutenant colonel, both career professionals who are just doing a fabulous job. One of our big initiatives is youthful driver safety, very near and dear to the governor's heart, and something that he has challenged us to really focus on through a comprehensive approach to improving youthful driver safety. In the BMV, working very close with John Houston, Lieutenant Governor, with a real focus on customer service. And we started right away and implemented last June, a year ago, the piloting of a new system, what we call Get In Line Online. Perhaps some of you have used it. Very good system. It's kind of like the Disney Fast Pass, where you get online, in line, you have 4 hours to come to a BMV. You can even pick which BMV has the shortest wait times. You can get online and see that. So we're really focusing on, on improved customer service with BMV. And that was something that Mike Rankin, of course, that was our registrar for a number of years, and Mike's really started that path toward that. I need to give Mike credit for that, because he was really a pioneer in many ways with BMV and the focus on quicker turnaround. So thank you, Mike, for that. And this online inline is so popular now, you can see we've taken it statewide this year. Another big initiative of Governor DeWine is obviously is what we call Recovery Ohio, dealing with the terrible drug problem in Ohio and across the country, focusing again on in a holistic way of prevention, treatment, education, and interdiction. And of course, my focus at public safety has been more on the interdiction side. And so a year ago, we kicked off a new narcotics intelligence center here at our building at public safety, focusing on drug task forces that work, focusing on dark web investigations, cryptocurrency, data analytics among our 900 some law enforcement agencies across Ohio, and cyber forensic analysis. And I talk about the dark web, and people often ask me about the dark web. Usually they ask me how to get to the dark web, and it's not something you get into accidentally. I've got just this illustration, I think, helped me understand better, just in a broad view, what the dark web is. You see the surface web that most of us are familiar with when we Google or Bing or get into Wikipedia and the like. Then you see the deep web that's used for business purposes, academic purposes, military purposes, etc. And then the dark web that you don't get into accidentally. That's where the criminals roam, in the dark web. That's where your human trafficking, your drug trafficking take place. And you can see why. Look at the dark web. You can get into the dark web, just like going shopping, just like Amazon. You can buy all these different types of cocaine, fentanyl, have it delivered right to your door. And again, the choice is cryptocurrency. And what is cryptocurrency? You can see on the slide kind of what it is. And most people are familiar with Bitcoin. That's probably the predominant type of cryptocurrency. But as this slide shows, there are just numerous types of cryptocurrency that we have to keep up with. Another initiative is our Ohio School Safety Center. And we're really promoting the use of this tip line for the Safety Center. We're getting some amazing tips in from students, from parents, and others. We're scanning social media, not looking for individual names of kids, but just scanning for those threats to our schools, trying to prevent before the actual threat occurs. We're reviewing emergency plans of our schools across Ohio and implementing threat assessment training for our teachers and staff. Really trying to consolidate school safety in a one-stop shop here at Public Safety. We had hoped to hold our first annual School Safety Summit in June, but that's been obviously delayed because of the pandemic. Speaking of the pandemic, this is a shot of our Emergency Operations Center. Most people probably haven't seen this or been to this site, but this is really the nerve center for handling all sorts of crises, including the pandemic. This is kind of what we call the war room. And this was taken a month or so ago. Off to the right of this room is the lead agency room where Dr. Acton and her team worked through much of the pandemic. Next to that is the executive room where I spent some time, as well as a lot of senior members of the governor's staff managing through COVID-19. So the other thing the governor did, other than activating the State Emergency Operations Center, and I thought this was a very effective tool, is he created a number of what he called strike forces. And you can see them on the screen. I headed up and still head up the public safety strike force. And so what that means is for 2 months or so, every weekday morning at 9 o'clock, I hosted and moderated a phone call with all of our public safety partners across Ohio, Sheriff's Association, Chiefs of Police, prosecutors, BCI, Attorney General's Office, State Patrol, EMA, and the Governor's Office and National Guard. Then also each week we touch base with our fire chiefs and our EMS providers, touch base with FOP to make sure we're staying in touch with our line police officers, and then once a week talking with the director of the the Health Commissioners Association. So through these meetings, we were able to problem solve, we were able to address questions from our local partners and get those to the governor's office or to the director of health, to Amy or others. It was just a very effective tool of managing the public safety aspect of the pandemic. And of course, next was the protest, and we've been very involved with the protest. This is a slide from when I was downtown early in the protest with Colonel Fambrough, Lieutenant Colonel Tieford, spending some time with the protesters. You know, and it seems like whenever we let our guard down a little bit, which we're not doing, we would have this kind of an episode either at the Supreme Court or at the State House. And so we're bound and determined not to let that happen again. And so I have a pretty heavy workforce at the State House. And even yesterday, this is a slide, excuse me, from Saturday, where we had, again, large crowds. We had, it got a little bit dicey, actually. The Columbus Police, I thought, handled it well. The State Patrol handled it well. But we had the Proud Boys, we had Mike Trump, Black Lives Matter, Ohio Patriots, a lot of skirmishes breaking out. It could have really gotten out of hand, but I think it was handled very well. But this is still going on as recently as Saturday. I think the good news from the post George Floyd tragedy is law enforcement reform and things that people like myself and others, I think, have really wished for some time, and I think now have the appetite within the legislature and elsewhere to actually implement some of this reform. So we're looking at some pretty significant pieces, such as the creation of a law enforcement oversight and accountability board, kind of like a healthcare board or nursing board or a dental board. Also, neutral objective investigations and prosecutions on cases of deadly force. So no longer, if the legislature passes this, no longer will an agency be able to investigate or prosecute their own deadly force cases. So we think these are two very huge additions to our law enforcement reform package. And finally, looking through the lens that I look at, I just end by saying I think all of this, for me, means opportunity. So we certainly have a crisis time now with what's going on in our country and in Ohio, but I think ultimately we have a lot of opportunities for the future. I think we have, I think we'll see better training within a criminal justice system, better education, better diversity, better technology, better communication, better data, better research, and better transparency for what I hope is a better criminal justice system. So appreciate your attention. Sorry, my voice is getting a little bit scratchy here, but I appreciate your attention and the opportunity to share some thoughts with you this afternoon. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom, for that excellent presentation. And I'm going to start out with the first question. Obviously, a year and a half ago when you started with Governor Mike, no one could have predicted the coming pandemic, economic collapse, and civil unrest, not to mention the impact on the state budget with more budget cuts coming. How has that impacted public safety?
Mike, I think if you're asking me a question, Mike, I am really sorry. I'm not getting the audio straight.
How has public safety been impacted by the budget cuts?
Can we go in the chat room? Maybe if somebody could chat that question to me.
Just go on to another one.
So do we have other questions for the director?
I have a question, Chip.
All right, Mark Scheiber, go ahead.
Director, my name's Mark Schieber, and I have a question relative to the recent actions that were taking place in Oregon, which were under the federal guise in motion. How do we deal with that type of approach to crowd control and so forth? I can't see and hope that we would not tolerate that in the state of Ohio, but how would you handle or deal with such an action?
Ms. Chapman, can you repeat the question?
I'm sorry. The question is relative to the,
I'm sorry, I'm not getting.
you can't, it won't come through? Sorry.
Not hearing it.
If you could chat the question through the chat room, for some reason, I'm not getting good audio.
Okay.
Okay.
Try and do that.
So the
How are the
first
budget
question,
cuts, I see the question, how are the budget cuts impacting DPS? So we took a round of budget cuts at the end of this past fiscal year that we were mostly able to handle through some delayed grants and through some staff vacancies. But I'm very concerned about the budget moving forward, as I'm sure all of us are, state and local government and private sector. So we are awaiting our budget numbers from the Office of Budget Management, and we're prepared to take steps. I was able to cut several tens of millions of dollars out of my last biennium budget, primarily through some management, through some delays of purchases and equipment and that type of thing. But we're very concerned moving forward. I'm still operating off of 2003 registration fees, for instance, for the Highway Patrol and Bureau of Motor Vehicles. So we're going to have to address that issue at some point in time. My goal is to keep the Highway Patrol as close to 1,600 sworn troopers as I can, and to continue our level of service at BMV. But we're very nervous about the budget moving forward.
very good.
And Mike Rankin reminds us that our fees are some of the lowest in the United States. So Mike, please pass that on to the legislature. Public officials in Washington and Ohio who don't seem to be on board with some of the law enforcement reform you laid out. Well, and I think, well, I'd like to be on the same page with Washington, or have them be on the same page with us. I think we can still move forward in Ohio. Most law enforcement is local based and state and local based. And so I think with our reform packages that I had the screenshot on, I think it will bring some really meaningful reform to Ohio. Obviously, we need the support of the Ohio legislature in some of those areas, such as the board that I'm talking about, the credentialing type board. But I think with the kind of things, I've already started some of the pieces. In fact, I already started a new office of recruitment right here at Public Safety to provide technical assistance to our local law enforcement partners. So I think most of this we can do in state. We'd like to have whatever funding is available federally, and certainly like it to be part of a national reform effort. But I think we can make some meaningful impact right here in Ohio.
Your earlier question had to do with Portland and what's going on out there and what your take is on it.
Did you hear that, Director?
Sorry, I
So the question was your
For some
feelings
reason.
about what's happening in Portland and how do we avoid that?
If someone could type that out real fast.
I'm trying.
It's there.
All right, anybody else that has questions, please just type them into the chat.
Oh yeah, quite about what's happening in Portland and how we can avoid that. Well, you know, that's a very difficult question. I mean, I was nervous Saturday, as I mentioned, and was briefing the governor throughout the day on the events in downtown Columbus, and we certainly hope not to become another Portland. We had enough trouble there, you know, with that round 6 or 8 weeks ago. So I think in part it's that we keep talking with each other, that we listen, that law enforcement handle it well. One of the things that we're doing is developing a new statewide standard on how to deal with civil unrest that I think we can work with law enforcement. I think most of the reforms that we've been talking about that I laid out earlier on the screen have support of our law enforcement partners, as well as groups around Ohio like the NAACP, and hopefully we'll have support of the legislature. So I think we need some meaningful reform. I think we need to continue to communicate. We obviously need to have, you know, I need to continue a presence in downtown Columbus with Columbus Police. That's been the focal point of most of at least of the destruction in Ohio and some of the vandalism. So I think it's a combination of things to avoid what's happening in Portland. It's not an easy answer.
All right, we have time for one more question. Anybody wants to put one in? Can you see that question, Director?
I see the comment. I'm not sure if that's a question or a comment. I'll take that as a comment. let's not have anonymous federal military grabbing up people and taking them away to who knows where. And I don't think we've talked about doing that in Ohio. Counter protest Saturday. Yeah, as I mentioned, Saturday was an unusual event. We had those 4 groups I had on the screen. So we had, and we did have some skirmish. We actually had a skirmish line for a while between some of the Black Lives Matter group and the, I don't know if it was the Bikers for Trump or the other, or the Patriot group. And we broke up some fights, and I have to say I was a little bit nervous about the day, but I think, again, cooler has prevailed. I think law enforcement did a nice job of dealing with the situation. And that's the kind of thing we need to continue to do.
So you have one more question there from Manana about how dealing with stress with all the hats you have to wear.
Yeah, well, I don't know how I'm dealing with stress. You probably need to ask my wife, but it has been, I'll have to admit, it's been, first of all, working with Mike DeWine. Mike's high energy, and I've worked around him and with him and known him for a long time. He's just full bore energy and expects that with all of us. I mean, we were on he was emailing me Saturday morning early. He was emailing me yesterday, I think about 6:30 in the morning. And so there's always, that part we bargained for. I bargained for that because I've worked with and for Mike DeWine for a long time. I'll have to say that the pandemic and now the protest and some of the riot type stuff and everything else, it has been a nonstop, not just for me, but certainly for the governor's staff and for many of the cabinet members, if not all the cabinet members. So it has been, and we're aware of that. We talk about that amongst the cabinet, that we need to make sure we know that we're in this for a while, and we need to take care of ourselves, like all of you do as well in your days. So thank you so much.
Great. Thanks, Director. We really appreciate you being here today with us, sharing some of your background experiences, and continue to do good work, and we wish you the best. All right, and moving forward, I'd like to have Galen Graham introduce some of our Service Above Self scholarship winners. You're muted, Galen. Galen, you're gonna have to take your mute off, buddy. Thank you.
There we go. Thanks, Chip. We're delighted to have Service Above Self scholarship recipients joining us today. The scholarship is offered by the Columbus Rotary, supported by the Rotary, and is meant to recognize excellent academic achievement, but just as importantly, service above self. And the service takes many forms, both within the school and in the community at large. I'd like to take a moment to thank the 15 Rotary Club members who went over the applications, conducted interviews, and helped with the selection process. And also wanted to thank Krista Bauer of the Columbus City Schools, who is their outreach coordinator, who did so much to make this program possible and a success this year. 4 of the 5 recipients are with us today. One is not, and that is Sophie Starkey of Whetstone High School. She's going to be majoring in physical therapy at Ohio University. She's a member of the National Honor Society and very active in school activities, including the Key Club. She couldn't join us today because she's working, but congratulations to her. Among the others, I'd like to introduce Mackenzie Halliday from Briggs High School. She's a member of the National Honor Society, a member of the volleyball team, has been involved in the Red Cross blood drive and numerous tutoring programs at the school. Mackenzie, tell us a little bit about your plans for this coming year.
Hi, I'm Mackenzie Halliday. I'm going to be going to Capital. I'll be on their volleyball team for this year, hopefully for the next few years too. And I am going to major in biology pre-med.
Very good. Do you see some of your service activities continuing on at Capital?
I do. Capital is also, their volleyball team is very into volunteering and stuff. I also plan on still volunteering at the elementary schools that I have been volunteering for years. So hopefully I can still continue to do that.
Very good. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you. Next, we have Zoe Harris from Marion Franklin High School. She's also a member of the National Honor Society, a member of the soccer team, has worked as a volunteer at nursing homes and with the Upward Bound program, among others. Zoe, tell us a little bit about your plans.
Hi, I'm Zoe, and I'll be attending The Ohio State University this fall, and I'll be majoring in nursing.
Very good. Do you see some service opportunities there at Ohio State?
Yes, because I know Ohio State has like a wide range of different activities that I can do and get involved in, so I'm definitely going to do that And some of the activities that I've been doing since high school, like volunteering at the nursing home and doing community service, I still plan on doing in the future.
Very good. Well, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jelani Leffridge of Columbus Alternative High School. He's a captain of the debate team and has been active in the Franklin County Youth Council, has had some interesting internships at both the Franklin County Municipal Police Court and at United Way. And Jelani, share with us some of your plans.
Hi, I'm Jelani Leffridge. I plan on attending Howard University in the fall and majoring in English, also on a pre-law track.
Very good. And do you see some chances to do service while you're in college as well?
Yes, that's part of the reason why I picked Howard, some of the service programs that they have.
Very good. Well then, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
But not least, we have Lavela Stanso from Fort Hays. Is a member of the National Honor Society, has done a lot of work with the Vacation Bible School, and is a member of the National Technical Honor Society. And I was wondering, Lavela, if you could share with us some of your plans. Although she may be on mute.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
But yeah, my name is Loveless Danso, and I'll be going to Ohio State University. I'm majoring in nursing. And yeah.
Very good. And do you think you'll be able to continue service work while you're at Ohio State?
Yes, definitely, yeah.
Very good. Well, listen, thanks for coming today. Thank you for all for joining us. And thanks to all of you members of the Rotary for supporting this important scholarship program. In this year of uncertainty, this kind of support makes a tremendous difference to these students. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Galen. Appreciate you and all the team and your hard work this year in making this happen for these kids. So thanks again. I'm going to turn it over to John Mariotti now to talk about OSU Veterans Program.
I'm actually going to talk about two spotlights, and I have a little schizophrenia going on in my head, and I'm probably sharing it with some of you. If you see this, these are two lists that I have. And these are lists that I keep on my desk all the time because it seems like I'm always recruiting for new people to join these lists. The good news is that the Veterans Mentoring Program, we now have 15 people who have agreed to serve, many of them who've served in the past. Over 40-some people have served in the past, and I want to thank all of you because these students really appreciate it. Ohio State is still in the midst of great uncertainty. Our contact, Mike Carroll, has been moved to the staff position temporarily on the president's staff to help the back to school program. So we have a new Mike Forrest, who's running it. We definitely plan to run the program this fall. School will start in August and end around Thanksgiving is what they think now. Whether it's going to be in classrooms or virtual, they don't know. The message they've given everybody is if you've got a room you've been meeting in, forget about it. It's going to be a classroom. Every room is going to be a classroom if we need them. I believe that we're going to have a greater need than ever for mentors. I believe these veteran students are going to come in and they're going to feel the same uncertainty that all of you feel. If you don't feel uncertainty, you either are living a great life or you're not paying attention, one of the two, because everything is uncertain. And they must be wondering what's going to happen. And this is a perfect opportunity. So if you haven't signed up to be a mentor in the Veterans Program, please call me. All it takes is a phone call or an email. My last name only has one R in it, not like Marriott Hotels. My email is johnmariotti@me.com. It can't be too much simpler than that. And I'll put you on the list. If you have been on the list before and you said no and you've changed your mind, call in and tell me yes. Or I'll give you, my phone number is in the membership directory. We need 20 at least, I think. We have 15 people. There are a few who said maybe I can do it if you really need me. So thanks to everybody who's done it. It's been a remarkable response. We're going to have to figure out how to do it differently. We understand that. There's going to be a lot of virtual meeting with people and a lot of virtual mentoring and coaching, but they need it as much as ever. Now, I'm going to take that list, which looks like this, off of my brain, and I'll put a different list on your brain. This is being part of the membership committee, because one of the things we're trying to do is actively recruit members to the club, but not just recruit them, welcome them, make them feel comfortable. Those of you who saw my spotlight, when the last meeting before we had to quit meeting, I played the theme music from Cheers. And it goes like, isn't it nice to go to a place where everybody knows your name? And what we have to do, if we can pull it off, is extend our list of ambassadors. There's about 20-some people who've already signed up to be ambassadors. The role of an ambassador is to welcome a new member, to make that new member feel comfortable, to understand what this Rotary thing is all about, and to help them go through the process of really getting involved in Rotary. Because once you get involved in it, the psychic rewards are terrific. I mean, you feel so good about helping people. And if ever there was a time that we can feel good about helping people, this is it. So our committee is going to meet, our membership group is going to meet to talk about how we can do this ambassador program virtually better and differently. I'm concerned that I sent an email out to 15 people and nobody answered it, which means it probably got lost somewhere. So I'm going to resend it. 15 of you are going to get an email asking you to join our ambassador list so that we can pair you up with new members and just help the new member feel like they know somebody else in the club. We'll give them the answers they need. We'll explain to them why Rotary is such a wonderful place. I mean, believe me, I explain this to everybody. I can't go to some people who are sick of me telling them how great Rotary is, but it is. And we need to get our new members to understand that and to meet more of you, because that's what made it for me. I came into this club 8 years ago. I probably know 150 people in this club now, and that's terrific, but that's what an ambassador needs to help do. And so when you get an email from me recruiting, pay close attention to which of my schizophrenic selves is recruiting. If you want to serve on both of them, that's permitted. In fact, it's welcomed, because helping the veterans is a 1 or 2 year process, which you might spend 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 hours on. Being an ambassador is an every week for about the first few months process in which all you do is reach out to them. Reach out by Zoom, reach out by FaceTime, reach out by phone call, and tell them, hey, welcome. What can I help you with?
Great. Thanks, John. Appreciate it. All right. I just want a reminder, tomorrow, July 21st at 5 o'clock, our membership team is hosting a membership orientation for all of our new members. So anyone interested in refreshing themselves with Rotary, please contact Scott to join in the meeting. And if you join John Mariotti's ambassador program, we'll see about getting these new members lined up with an ambassador. At the same time, there's an online Rotary District Masterclass we spoke about last week. Dana spoke about last week. If you're interested in participating in that, please reach out to Dana Vogelmeyer for more information. And wanted to run through the birthdays for July. Didn't want to skip the folks. So going back to the beginning of the month, Tim Norris was on July 1st, Jeff Clifton on July 11th, Chris Foley, our new member, who we'll be introducing here in an upcoming meeting, July 12th. Tim Maggie was gracious enough to spend his birthday with us on our board meeting last week on July 15th. He and Chuck Nitschke share the same day. John Martin on July 19th, Stephen Walliser on July 22nd. So a couple of days. Fred Hadley coming up on July 24th, Jack Kennedy on July 25th, and Millie Drosty and Michelle Roseberry share July 26th. So happy birthday to all of you. Hope you've had a fun and delightful birthday, and hopefully anybody that has the upcoming birthdays will have great days as well. I really want to thank you for joining us today. Great speaker, very interesting topic. I'm not sure, like he's saying, how Tom deals with all the stress and all the hats he has to wear, but please spread the word and let other members, friends know. Join us on Zoom next week. We'll have Christy Angel, President and CEO of the YWCA. We are adjourned.
Bye, everybody.